What is going on, Mariners fan, Mariners Nation? Tough news for the Mariners today, coming off a nice win yesterday. But as you can see from the title, the Mariners have lost Robbie Ray for the season. He will be out the rest of the year. The elbow injury, it looked like that some x-rays revealed more, Scott Service said. Ryan Divish reported it, Shannon Dre reported it, just to give credit where I saw, but I think everyone's reporting it now. So big blow for the Mariners rotation. I'll talk a little about what options they may have, but Robbie Ray will miss the rest of the season. I feel really, first of all, gutted for Robbie. Obviously, as a human being, that sucks. And after a really impressive spring training for Robbie Ray, velocity looked like it took an uptick for him. Some new pitches were being worked on, plus that two-seamer he worked on last year. Just a shame for him that he won't have a chance to pitch again this year. And a massive blow to the Mariners that now have some questions in their rotation. Now some things have to be done. Maybe a move has to be made to get this rotation, I want to say fixed, but better, to make a run at this thing. Chris Flexen has been filling in. He has struggled. When it looked like Robbie Ray might be back in 3 or 4 more starts, I was kind of like, listen, Bryce Miller's not ready. Wu doesn't have enough minor league starts. I think he's a bottom rotation starter anyways if he gets up. Hancock's not ready yet. Just let Flexen make these 3 to 4 starts and then get Robbie Ray back. Now you have a spot to fill for the rest of the season, and you've got to figure out what you're going to do with it. In the immediate short term, Chris Flexen is still the best option. And you can sit there and say, are you kidding me? It's true. In the immediate short term right now, the Mariners' best bet is that Chris Flexen does pitch better. But I do think they're going to have to make a move here because Flexen can be okay as your 6th starter, spot starter, and so can some of these other guys. So can Tommy Malone. Those guys can fill in and pitch 45, 50 innings for you and do a nice job. But now you need someone that has to cover 200 innings. Now, it's not going to be 200 the rest of the way, but you guys know what I'm talking about. You need a legitimate starting pitcher. Thank goodness Marco Gonzalez has looked really good so far. They now need Marco Gonzalez to be a legitimate 4th, 3rd starter, not the 5th starter. He's got to be what he's been the last 2 starts, or at least close to that. He's got to keep that up. George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, while obviously we knew they were important, now become that much more important. And Luis Castillo, probably the most important player on this team already, maybe outside of Julio, just adds a little bit more to that as well. So I think they're going to have to make a move to get a starting pitcher. Jerry Dipoto is no stranger and Justin Hollander for making trades. So I wouldn't be shocked if they go out and get somebody. In the short term, Flexen's your option, or Tommy Malone, whatever. But they've got a lot of innings to cover. This is the team expects to be in the playoffs. And I don't think you're going to, you can roll with Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert. That's a really good 1, 2, 3. But you'd like to have somebody else in there to help cover that back end or kind of push up the middle and front end a little bit as well. So I don't know who are some names right now that would be available. Listen, there's always the 5th, 6th, 7th starters out there. There's probably 13 Tommy Malones and 10 Chris Flexens sitting out there somewhere that you can get. So in terms of depth, there's plenty of guys I'm sure the Mariners can add that will help. But can they get somebody? Are they going to make a move for somebody that is more, I don't want to equate to Luis Castillo move last trade deadline, but someone that's maybe more middle of the rotation starter. I'm trying to think of someone that maybe they've traded for in the past. But more your mid-rotation guys than your, necessarily top end, but you're not looking just for bottom of the rotation either. Like I said, I think they can find filler guys. I'm not too concerned about that. But are they going to want to make a move now to get somebody that's closer to, a 200 innings guy that is just like a solid middle rotation pitcher? I don't know who's necessarily out there right now. The teams that are already out of it, I don't know if they're going to necessarily be selling. Like, you got, who's it, Freeland on the Rockies, Herman Marquez, are those guys that would be available? Would the Mariners be willing to pay the cost of what they might cost? I don't even know if they're willing to trade guys. I don't. That's the other thing too. I haven't looked into it yet. We're just not at trade season yet. Obviously Oakland's going to sell, but I mean, do they have any pitchers that you really are that interested in? I'm sure you could go get like a James Caprillion or something like that, but that's your back end guy. And again, I'm just doing this. I'm winging this right now, so I'll do more in depth. Maybe the White Sox, maybe a Lucas Giolito becomes available. That's someone that has the upside of potential to be a little bit more of an impact guy. That's someone that maybe you look at. Screwball in Detroit. I don't even, I haven't even followed that enough to know if he's even pitching well this year. Like I said, all those teams I mentioned are going to have guys they'll sell. You could probably go get Matthew Boyd back from the Tigers. You could probably get Caprillion or someone from the A's, whoever's the fifth starter on the Nationals. That's all fine. But is that what they're going to do and just have that depth there and hope one of those guys? And that may be the option. That may be you hope Malone, Flexen, someone else, you go trade for Matthew Boyd again. And you hope between those three you can get just enough to push you over the top. So that could be an option. Listen, this is something that's more long-term now, so maybe someone like Bryce Miller does become an option. His last start wasn't that hot in Double-A. I'm still very high on Bryce Miller. I think he's going to be a good pitcher, but I don't know if you just think that that's necessarily, is he ready to come up and contribute? Maybe you do. Maybe you say, listen, we've got 150 innings left that we need filled. We're going with what we think is the guy with the best stuff to get it done. Maybe they do something like that. Maybe that's the plan. In the meantime, though, I think what they'll do is probably stick with what they've got, but I imagine that Justin Hollander and Jared Dipoto are getting the phones ready and seeing who is out there. Maybe this weekend I'll have a video. We'll see how some of these guys do. I'll look into guys that may be more available. I apologize. And again, if you're a fan of one of those teams and I threw out those names, and you're like, Marquez isn't available. Maybe he's not. I don't know. I'm just trying to, off the top of my head, think of names of guys that might be available that are on teams that don't look at all like contenders. And that's the other tough thing early in the year, too. The Royals would be another team. Like, maybe you can get Zach Greinke. I don't know. But again, is that Greinke 10 years ago? Great. Greinke now is a back-end starter. So, and the problem is you're in April. A lot of teams are not selling. You're going to have to wait a couple months. The best thing for the Mariners is Chris Flexen gets better. That's really the best thing you can have happen, because teams just aren't going to sell outside of maybe Washington, Oakland, Kansas City. Other than that, teams are going to kind of hold out and wait. They don't want to get to May and they're already selling players away and send a message to their fan base that they're not competing. So it'll be interesting. We'll see what ends up happening, but tough news for the Mariners losing Robbie Ray for the year. I was a little worried because we're hitting May. We haven't even heard of anything rehab going on. Kind of thought this was always a possibility. It stinks. But some of the Mariners are going to have to overcome. They didn't have to deal with a lot of injury issues last year in the rotation. And so far this year, they're having to deal with it. Again, if you want to be mad at Dipoto and Hollander, fine. I don't know who you wanted them to have as 7th and 8th starters. That would be my comeback for that. The rotation was in good shape with, Castillo, Ray. You guys know who's in the rotation. Gonzalez, Kirby, Gilbert. I've got to name it after I said it. But Chris Flexen was about as good of a 6th starter as you can have sitting there. You felt pretty good about having him fill in, gaps need be where guys were hurt and things happened. And then there's some other depth too, and you've got some guys in Double-A, mostly Miller and Hancock, that are on the way, not quite ready yet. I don't know who you want them to sign. Like, you weren't going to be able to sign Carlos Rodon and stick him in Triple-A and wait, So I just, guys, when you're signing those guys and stashing them away for depth, it's going to be guys like Tommy Malone. Those are the guys that are AAA, 4A depth. You're not going to be able to get the Jacob deGroms of the world and put them down there. So it is what it is. It's just something the Mariners are going to have to overcome, and hopefully they can. The good news is Chris Flexen should pitch better. He should. He is better than an 8 ERA, so you are due for a little bounce back with Chris Flexen. So hopefully that happens, and hopefully this team can get better, and we'll see if they make a move. I'll have my post-game video up much later tonight. I've got some stuff going on. Won't be able to watch the game NFL draft tomorrow. I'll talk about the Seahawks pick. Listen, at number 5, there's not much they can do that I'll be mad about. They're going to get a great, talented player. And then at 20 as well. So we'll talk about both those picks tomorrow and Mariners tomorrow. So busy couple days here on my channel. Hit the like button, hit the sub button, and I will see you guys later. Go M's. Peace.